Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to take a look at Venus in Leo approaching a square to Uranus and Taurus. I'm going to go ahead and show you it on the real-time clock first, and we're going to talk about what to watch for. It's a pretty quick-moving transit. Venus moves along pretty quickly, kind of give it an average of about a degree or so per day, and of course, that means that it'll pass through the square to Uranus really quickly. Let me put Uranus and the outer planets back in here. And here we go. So you can see that Uranus is at about, right as I'm making this today on Monday, that Venus is at about 9 degrees of Leo and Uranus is about 10 degrees of Taurus. And of course, the application range or the engagement range about 3 degrees on either side. So you're going to see tomorrow on Tuesday, you're going to see Venus pass through the square to Uranus, and then you get a couple degrees of separation taking you through the end of the week. So you kind of give it this week to feel the effects, specifically probably the next 2 days, the next 48 hours or so, when you'll see the most prominent of those effects. Now by Thursday, we have a new moon. So we'll be talking about the new moon later in the week, and that's going to play into the way that this is experienced, because when a new moon is coming through and any other planetary transit is happening, it's a lot like when a full moon is happening and any other planetary transit is happening. There's an amplification that takes place. So you could say that the Venus-Uranus themes that we're about to discuss will also carry this feeling of there being a new start, a new beginning, a fresh look, or a fresh new chapter that's starting that would be associated with any of the following Venus-Uranus themes. So what are those themes? Well, let's go through them together. Remember that Venus is the goddess who represents peace, love, friendship, harmony, taking unlike things and somehow bringing them together and helping them to get along. It represents agreement. You could even say that Venus is related with diplomacy, social grace, and anything that's you could say feminine, or anything that's aesthetic or sexual or sensual. So those are some pretty standard Venus themes. Now Uranus, of course, is the god who is associated with sudden and unexpected emancipatory or liberating events or rebellion, anything that's sort of eccentric, shocking, disruptive, sudden, potentially violent or perverse or weird or strange, as well as things that are sort of outside the box or that defy conventions or the status quo or that defy norms. And Uranus is also known for breakthrough and invention, and the potential for defiance that leads to some kind of sudden mutation of norms and sudden leaps and bounds or sudden progress that can be made. And then sometimes it's questionable as to whether the insistence upon progress or change that Uranus brings is good, or if it is also tyrannical. Like anyone can use Uranus sort of to put their agenda forth. Or you could say that Uranus is signified in the insistence upon an agenda that is defying whatever the status quo is, regardless of what the status quo is. So you have some people who, for example, they may embody Uranus, and they could be, in the United States, for example, they could be really hardcore Republicans, or they could be really hardcore, sort of left-leaning individuals. So I'm just so that you know that Uranus sort of can express itself across a wide spectrum of beliefs and ideals and so forth. Sometimes I feel like people try to sort of, they assume that Uranus is just this bastion of progress in a good way, in a positive way, in sort of unanimously positive ways. And that's actually not the case, though it can be. So, all right, so let's talk about Venus, Uranus when you put them together in a square. Remember that squares are of the nature of Mars, which means that they have a little bit more of a confrontational energy. Uranus is in the superior position, if we want to look at it from the old school astrological standpoint, which means that Uranus is going to be a bit more dominant. They're both in fixed signs, which means that the things that they challenge can be a little bit more deeper, can take a little bit longer time to play out, or also may force changes in things that appear relatively more stable or have been around for a longer time. That's usually those are some of the connotations of the fixed signs. So now, here's what you can watch for. You can watch for unexpected disruptions in relationships. And the disruption could be very positive, meaning it's that there's the introduction of some new element or theme or energy or, event that is positive, but it nonetheless disrupts the norm or disrupts the peace or disrupts the status quo. So watch for that. That could be any type of relationship. That could be in any particular facet of a relationship. For example, your sex life can be suddenly transformed. Sometimes, couples will reignite the spark or find it again or experiment or, find some way of pleasing or satisfying one another that's like totally new. On the other hand, you have to be careful of sort of flash in the pan, electric, quick, but quickly fading love affairs. So things that sparkle and that grab your attention, that are very attractive and dynamic, and they sort of set you free, but they're not. They don't last very long. So, for example, let's give the classic example, which is a rebound. You get out of a relationship with someone you really cared about, but it didn't work out, and then suddenly you meet someone while you're out, and they're like, maybe they're half crazy. You know what I mean? But it's kind of wild and fun, and there's some chemistry there. So you have some fun. The next morning, you look at the person and they're like, so we're going out again, right? And you're like, oh my God, I got to run because I can't believe what I did. So that kind of like, fun, flingy, flirty, but fading quickly kind of attractive energy. And I'm not trying to, obviously there can also be a sense in which something or someone enters your life that's just really unexpected and that maybe it lasts longer. But it would be still something that would be a little bit more out of the ordinary or out of the blue, or might disrupt your normal pattern of who you choose as a partner or who you date or something like that. Emancipation in love and sex. There's also a strong need for greater independence and freedom when Venus and Uranus get together, where it's like, I need my space, or I need my time, or I'm feeling smothered, or, I want to date multiple people, or I don't want to be as committed, or something like that, which is why you have to be careful of love affairs. And this is a pretty quick energy. So if you're feeling like you just need a little bit more time or space, don't feel bad to take it this week, and if you're someone who has a partner that's needing a little bit more of that, don't be afraid to give it. So freedom and the feminine would be another one. So expressions of, whether it's art or technology or intelligence or athletic accomplishments, just anything where the something brilliant and vivid and interesting and maybe, record-breaking or standard-defying in relation to the feminine or to feminine characters or figures or art or something like that. You think also about feminism in general. Radical expressions of art or creativity. So something that defies norms and conventions, that sort of breaks out of the limitations of what is proper or appropriate, which is also why you can sometimes see unusual fashion changes that people make, like a different wardrobe that they wear, or someone may feel the need to kind of display their like, I think they're the birds of paradise. They kind of look like peacocks. They have those crazy, like, big plumage of, maybe that's not what they're called, but you see them on like the Planet Earth show, and they jump around and they have all these they puff up and they get the crazy feathers. It's kind of a Venus-Uranus dynamic. If someone knows the name of that bird, that'd be interesting. Disrupting the peace. Okay, so this one's maybe not as nice to talk about because Uranus dominating Venus could mean that something, Uranus is in Venus's sign, so there is reception with Venus right now, and that should bring about something better overall. But destruction or damage of property, destruction or damage of peace, any place that is a Venusian environment or atmosphere that's suddenly disrupted by something that is, more violent or agitating or disturbing, and again, shocking. Those things come to mind. You also think about, the just kind of that general, like the guy or the girl or whoever that walks into your high school classroom and suddenly they have no hair and they've got, a nose ring on or something like that. And you're like, oh my God, what did you totally changed your look? So disrupting norms or conventions with fashion statements, creative demonstrations of peaceful protest. For example, I think it was this makes sense for the, Mars retrograde as well. The NFL football season started, and I know that, most of the teams are doing something creative to, demonstrate solidarity before with the national anthems and all that kind of stuff. So you have creative demonstrations of protest or defiance or rebellion. Also, like art installations that could serve as a social message of some kind. Also, shocking or sudden revelations involving Venusian things. For example, I can't tell you how many times that, Uranus-Venus dynamics where in relationships, secrets or things that have been held in suddenly come to the surface in ways that are often kind of painful or sudden, but also usually very liberating, like it frees up some kind of pent-up energy. Sudden or unexpected good fortune. See, that's the other thing, is that Venus generally rules good fortune. Like, just if you think about it, when you have one of those days, you're like, everything seemed to go nicely today. That's sort of a Venus day. And those, when those kinds of good fortunate events come suddenly, unexpectedly, and like, whoa, that was great. Like a little bit of a lightning strike of good luck or good fortune or pleasantness. That's also Uranus-Venus. Flair. I was laughing when I wrote this down because when I was in high school and like my first year of college, I worked at like my senior year of high school, and then like first year of college, I worked at TGI Fridays. Here in Minnesota, I worked there by the Mall of America. And I remember very specifically, which you also may remember from the movie, I think it's Office Space, but I could be wrong. But there's like a certain number of items of flair that we had to wear, like buttons, and like I had like a hat that I wore, it was like, and it was like at the time, like as an 18-year-old, like I think that was probably, I was in theater in high school, and I think that job probably was just like an extension of my love for like theater and art, because you just got to be goofy and crazy and like fun. Now I look back at it though, and I'm like, oh my God, I looked like a clown, but I think probably the people that enjoy Fridays the most are like kids. But at any rate, so flair, any kind of flair that you add to your presentation, sexual experimentation, people can get a little kinky. People can also people can experiment with different forms of sexuality. For example, one of the things that really changed my life was, I'm not going to go into, I don't want to share too much, but when I was drinking ayahuasca in my 20s, I realized that it was time for me to take an extended period of celibacy. I still wanted to be like dating and stuff like that. And so I ended up practicing something called Karetsa, which was hugely transformational in my life for a period of time. And it's basically orgasmless intercourse. So it's intercourse without orgasm. And that was something that really, really changed my life and taught me how to appreciate sexual energy at a better, like a deeper level. And that was a Uranus-Venus transit that started that. Isn't that interesting? So also, like, it's not that it just has to be these kinds of, like really flamboyant, over the top, indulgent, or, kind of like a super indulgent sexual energy. It can also be like sexual, almost like sexual healing technologies, something like that. So, anyway, let's see. If you ever want to read a book about that, Karetsa, as I was talking about, there's a great book that is called Cupid's Poisoned Arrow by Marnia Robinson. And she also wrote a book called Peace Between the Sheets. Anyway, those books kind of had a big impact on me for a little bit there in my 20s, and definitely like it was the start of like a much healthier phase in my life, and that was Venus Uranus. Anyway, let's see. So also, you can have unusual or perverse Venusian things. And by perverse, I don't want to say, I'm not making any judgments. I'm just using that kind of like, well, for example, one of the, Venus Uranus transits that it was Venus Uranus. It was, kind of Venus Uranus Pluto dynamics in Tim Burton's chart. And I've looked at some of the transits that he's had when he's made some of his most kind of dark, interesting, erotic, slightly perverted like characters and landscapes, and where it's, by perverted we mean that it takes something and it twists it somehow, not for good, not for bad. It's just that it twists it. So take away this sort of negative connotation of the word, I guess is what I'm saying. But it could be negative as well. Like Venus Uranus can also be about, sudden desecrations of things that are beautiful, sudden acts of molestation or violence or demeaning or degrading something that's sacred, or also like you will see domestic violence around Uranus, Venus sometimes. So you do have to, kind of be careful, because Uranus is also like, Uranus can also bring to Venus like fetishes that are like maybe unhealthy or something like that. You also have the kind of dark side of Uranus, Venus, which I would call Frankenstein beauty. And that just means like being really careful that what we're doing is not like, okay, for example, the person who wants to, I don't know, they want to get a lip job or they want to get a butt job or something like that. And then they end up looking sort of, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like, yeah, they just don't look human any longer, or they look like part, like they look like an experiment that sort of went wrong somehow. And that's also can be a little Pluto Venus, but can also be Uranus Venus. So kind of like experimentation with beauty that goes off somehow, like trying to use too many pills or drugs or, surgeries or whatever, testosterone treatments to get muscles, or, what I mean? Like something where you're trying to basically, you're thinking of yourself like you're a machine that you can manipulate to look more beautiful or something like that. And also there can be like I've seen and so there can be a dark side to that. And then there can be also a side where people have corrective surgeries or something meant to alter or adjust some element of their presentation or their physical appearance, and it's not always bad. So I'm not casting judgments. I've looked at lots of people's charts. So they have Uranus, Venus, and, they might need to get something done that's meant to help, and really does, but it's an adjustment of their appearance somehow. So now, also eccentric displays of vanity. I just put that one down, and I think it speaks for itself. Eccentric displays of vanity. Look at how amazingly, weirdly awesome I am, or something like that. All right, so those are some of the Venus-Uranus dynamics that I'm thinking about right now, that I kind of see in the sky this week, especially today and tomorrow at the beginning of this week to start it off. But let me know what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. Please feel free to put your comments in the comment section below. And remember, starting November 14th, my next class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, is about to begin. On Saturday, we graduated a class. We had about 60 or 70 people there. And in our final class of the year, had a closing circle. 30 classes on the year, and I start these sections twice every year. We had our first one in the spring. Our second one is always in the fall. It's 30 classes on the year, 2 to 3 hours each, live webinars, but you can also participate remotely if you can't be there live. We meet at noon on Eastern time on Saturdays. Go for about 2 to 3 hours. 30 lectures on the year, plus 12 guest lecturers, plus we have breakout sessions after every unit with tutoring. And we have a forum discussion group, optional homework, optional reading, tons of bonus material. And the last third of the program, after you see and learn about the theory, you get to see it implemented with live clients. So that's how the program works. I'd love to see some of you in class. Remember, we have need-based tuition for people who are hurting financially, especially right now if you're hurting due to COVID-19. The early bird discount is also in effect. You can save $500 off when you pay up front for the class. There's a payment plan if you need it as well. So check that out at my website, nightlightastrology.com. If you have any questions at all for me, or there's something you'd like to see me do a video about at some point in the future, feel free to email me info@nightlightastrology.com. And we'll see you with lots more content this week coming up shortly. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye.